Hello and welcome to episode 129 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
And I'm Matthew Kay.
And we'd like to thank Philly Brickfest for their support of Beyond the Brick. Philly Brickfest will be held at the Philadelphia Expo Center on September 12th through the 14th. It is a public event with many hands-on attractions such as the LEGO video game area, where you can challenge your family or make new friends playing your favorite LEGO titles head-to-head. And more info can be found at brickfestlive.com. I'll have a link to them in the description of this video. And one quick thing I wanted to make you aware of is our Brickmania giveaway that we're doing in honor of our Brickmania video from Brickworld Chicago last year, hitting 1 million views. It's about to hit 1 million views. I'll put a link to that giveaway in the description of this video so you can check that out. I encourage you to enter that giveaway and you can win some really cool Brickmania products. Now, joining us on the show tonight, we have Adam Dodge, and he is 34 years old. He is a high school art teacher and a member of the Saskatchewan LEGO Users Group, also known as SLUG. So, thanks for joining us, Adam.
Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. Yeah, I'm glad we could work this out here. So, if you want to start off talking a little bit about SLUG and some of the membership there and what kind of shows you guys do.
Sure. We're a provincial group, and so we run across the entire province. We've been together for about 5 years, started in 2009. We started with about 4 of us, oddly enough, at a garage sale where someone was selling their LEGO. We stopped that right away and started joining the group. We mainly do local sort of hobby and train shows to get ourselves out there. But we've started over the past 3 years doing our own show. Our museum was kind enough to lend us the space, which you don't get very often. And so we jumped at the chance to do our own show. We've been doing that for 3 years now. Our membership has gone up to about 30-ish people. We've kind of come and gone a couple members, but we're holding steady around 30. And we have everybody from those with just kind of the interest and those with a lot of building acumen. So it's a pretty good group, and we're a pretty easygoing bunch of people. So you have to be when the weather's cold.
So now, to the best of my knowledge, Saskatchewan is not the smallest province. So what is it like? Do you have members that are really far flung, that are really, it's like hard to get them to kind of come to stuff? How does that work?
We are fairly large, but luckily most of our membership is in, I would say, within about a 2-hour, sort of 3-hour radius. We've got 2 major cities. We have Regina and Saskatoon, and so most of our membership is there. We have a couple other members who live a couple hours out, like 1 or 2 ways. But it's pretty easy for us to get together as a group. We don't, unfortunately, we aren't able to get together, all of us, all the time. Like, people are busy. But we're within close enough distance that we can. It's possible.
That's nice. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't picked up anybody from like really, really north yet. And when we have to go by plane, we may have to rethink where the boundaries are.
Just get a LEGO LUG jet. I think that should be a thing, right?
That'd be great. We could build this sucker.
Pick up people, have a little meeting on board. Disperse.
That is a fantastic idea.
This is the future.
It is.
It's the SLUG jet. I think that'd be really cool.
There you go.
Pretty good.
Now, you mentioned that you do some of your shows in a museum, and that's something I've noticed with LUGs all across the U.S., Canada, and everywhere. It seems like museums are a place that a lot of LUGs are able to find a home to do shows and stuff, which I think is really cool that a lot of museums are willing to host LEGO groups like that. It gives them an opportunity to get out there and expose the public to some of their builds.
Yeah, and we were really lucky with the one we tagged on with because they run a hobby train show. And we were part of that for a couple of years. And then they approached us and said, have you ever thought about doing your own show? Which we're, yes, of course we have. And it's enough space that we can kind of filter in, and they appreciate what we do, and they see the draw that we are compared to just a standard museum.
Yeah. Now, have you guys ever done anything with other Canadian LUGs? There are obviously a lot of Canadian LUGs out there. Have you guys done joint shows or anything like that?
Not yet, but I kind of see it on the horizon. With this last show that we had a couple members from the Manitoba group come in, and we're starting to develop a relationship with them. And so I can see kind of down the road maybe trying to do something. I don't know if it'll be on the border. Like we may have to pick one or the other, but I could see something going on with them.
Now, I know that BrickFest is, there's the one that happens in Toronto, and then there's now like a traveling one. Is it going to come to your guys' area anytime soon? Do you know?
You know, I have no idea. I know they did Toronto and Montreal. They're looking.
Yeah.
I know they're looking at other spaces kind of in and around there. Whether they'll go west, I don't know. We have big dreams for our show, and we know of the Brick Roundup in Calgary, and they're sort of doing a show as well. And maybe we'll get some sort of Western together show going on and make it a big deal.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you've got the SLUG membership going on. You're one of the founding members there. Now, before that, had you done much Lego building, or how long before you started the LUG did you get into Lego building?
As far back as I can remember, I've always been doing something, and luckily my parents were really good at photo albums and taking pictures, so I've been able to see that, yeah, when I was 3, I was, building the stuff. One in my mouth, but still. And so it's always kind of been in and around. And when it came to, like, I never really had, I say I never really had a dark age. I had kind of a graying age where it was kind of in and out, but it never really, disappeared. I never packed it up and just shoved it in a crawl space for a couple of years. So it just kind of ebbed and flowed and waved and that sort of idea. So it's always been something. It's always been something I'm doing. There's other things I did, but that's kind of been a constant, somewhat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this great photo you posted on Flickr about a year ago, I think it was, and there's a really great photo. Is this you and your dad here?
Yeah, I think I'm probably about, I would say maybe about 5 or 6 there, and yeah, he helped me with my organization, which has always been sort of interesting for me. He would take the top of a paper box, and he would put in the plastic inserts that you would get plants from a garden center, as a first way to sort of organize stuff. So that's probably one of those boxes right there. And he would sit down with me and we would build stuff, and sometimes it was the actual sets, and sometimes it was, whatever. And they're pretty good memories.
That's awesome.
That is really cool. So did your dad build very, was it mostly just with you, or did he do much outside of it when he wasn't building with you, or mostly just to play with you?
I'm pretty sure it was 100% just when I was around.
He wasn't a closet A-fool? Come on.
I don't think so.
No.
I wish I could say so, but I don't think he was.
Yes.
I know.
So how did you find the online community then? What was the first few of the sites that you found when you first got into the AFOL community?
My Bricklink registration goes back to like 2005, which isn't forever ago, but it's a while ago. And I want to say that things like Classic Castle I may have kind of stumbled upon, and when Brickset and Brothers Bricks kind of started going, I think those were sort of the first ones I actually sort of started paying attention to, and I was like, oh my gosh, there are people out there. And luckily, when I had a teenage job, one of the coworkers I had, he was into it as well. So at least I had a sort of a local connection to go with for a while. And then once, got into mock pages and Flickr and things like that, you get the bigger world out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, discovered there's so much more out there to see, and a lot of cool stuff for sure.
Quite, yes.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you are a high school art teacher. Has that? How long have you been doing that?
This will be my technically 3rd year of that type of position.
Okay. Do you find that affects your Lego building at all with the art side of it? Does that overlap much at all? Do you do much with students with Lego or anything like that?
Because my administration knows what I'm into, I'm kind of hesitant to use my art budget to buy bricks because I'm kind of worried they'll be like, oh, what's he doing with those? He's just taking them home at night, and that's it. What it does allow me to do is a lot of time to think, because a lot of times I'll give the kids something to do on the Monday, say, you've got all week to do it, go. And then I can kind of sit back and do my own thing. So I've got my ideas book with me all the time, so if something comes into my brain, I start jotting it down, I get some little sketches going on, and then I build it over and over and over in my head. So when I come home, it's halfway done, and I can just kind of put it together physically.
Mm-hmm. So it gives you a little time to work on this stuff then.
Lots of quiet contemplation time.
A lot of quiet contemplation.
Maybe not so quiet contemplation time. But
every now and then, yeah.
Awesome.
Now, a few of your builds we wanted to make sure we talked about here. One of your more recent ones is your Calvin and Hobbes build that you did. This is a really great build. Kind of a smaller, simpler build, but still really cool and definitely recognizable. How did you decide to build that? I'm assuming you're a big fan.
I am. I've got a number of the books, and I've been reading them for years and years. And it actually stems from the show that we had in the summer, our Brixpo that we had in the summertime. And someone from the media had come to talk to us about it, and about the show. And at the show, I had a Calvin and Hobbes. It was built for one of the Brick Nerdly contests, and it was a Calvin and Hobbes in a like a cardboard box with the goggles, and they're flying. And he was so taken by it because he had such a history with it that he offered to buy it, which is kind of cool. And I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know, because really, what do you do? So instead of selling him that one or giving him that one, which was much larger and could have used the pieces, instead I sort of built this to give to him as like a thank you for coming to the show. And so this was during my my sorting, my 30 days of sorting challenge I did. And so it was at the 30. I thought to myself, okay, well, how can I scale down what I have, make it more of a mini land sort of scale? And this came together surprisingly quickly. You know, you kind of get the lines of the Calvin, so that kind of came together. You figure out the spacing of the Hobbes, and that kind of came together. And so it was very short, and it's very simple, but I'm really kind of stoked about what it's brought out in people. Because a lot of people were quite connected to the book, so it's nice to see the reaction that it's gotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see, it seems like once every month or two, there's a really nice Calvin and Hobbes build like this that some builder does, pops up into my Flickr feed or something. So it's definitely a popular thing to build in Lego for sure, because I think a lot of people have that connection.
Yeah, and it stirs good memories, and they're fun little books, and imagination is all over the place. And it was pretty much either this or a T-Rex in a jet plane. That's pretty much all I could do.
Yeah. Now, another cool build that I saw when looking over your Flickr feed was this floating cat kingdom that you did, and this was really interesting. This is a build that you don't see very often. I don't know if I've ever seen a castle layout on a boat like this. So, a very unique build. What inspired you to build this?
This was from one of the last SLUG meetings that we had, and the members' house we were going to has a pool. And so the challenge is brought up, we'll build something that will float in the pool and not sink. And to build a castle that won't sink. And so he was going to build a castle, and I was going to build a castle. And I started out with a couple of the smaller boats, about 4 of them, kind of making a little floating island. And I tried it in my sink, and it went down like a stone. So I realized I had this nice big red hull, and I was like, well, that sucker's not going to sink. So then I put it inside of that. So it turned out really nice, and I kind of like how all the wedges worked and the scale of it all, and it floated, and his didn't. So it made me happy.
What was that? Was there a big challenge of fitting all that kind of texturing and getting the castles and the recognizable trees and everything onto just the fitting it within the boat hole?
A little bit. I was kind of worried how the sides are pretty square, so where it meets up with the castle, it's very geometrical. And my big worry was getting the houses to cheese, but it was just one-sided as opposed to a peak. So I went with just the flat tiles for that. But when dealing with like a micropolis scale and using those for trees or shrubbery, I kind of had that in back of my head, so it seemed to work out okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, something I noticed looking through your Flickr feed at all those different sorts of builds you have, you are a very diverse builder. You build in tons of different themes, and so when you first started building, was there a certain theme you build in, and do you consider yourself a certain theme builder today, or is it just kind of whatever strikes your fancy?
When I first actually started doing it seriously, I would bounce between a big cityscape and a big castlescape. And usually I got about halfway done a city, and then I'd have the idea for the castle, so the city would be destroyed, and then I'd work on the castle bit, and then halfway through the castle I'd have an idea for the city, so it would get destroyed, and then anyway, it was back and forth. And it really wasn't until I started getting involved in the group that I started putting more detail and effort. Because when it was just for me, a nice square building, cool, done, nice. But when I saw what somebody else was doing, that kind of inspired me to do a little bit better, and then it kind of went back and forth. So, yeah, but it was a lot of just city castle for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you just, do you find certain places are really, you draw inspiration from for your builds, or is it just whatever you find and looks interesting?
Um, More often than not nowadays, a lot of times it's little contests that are online that it'll challenge me to build something that I maybe never built before, or think of something a little bit differently. So that's been kind of a big inspiration. And right now, it's a lot of doing things that I don't normally do, or using things I don't normally use. And my goal for this year is to do larger things. I found when we do our summer show, I often sort of count who built what and how many people built what. And I ended up with like 60 builds in the show, but they're often small. And so I'm like, well, forget that. Instead, next year, 10 things, but they're all huge. And so that's kind of my goal for the year, is like a big castle, and a big comic scene, and a big ship. So yeah, I want to do bigger instead of more.
Hmm. Have you guys done any collaborations in the lug yet? Any big displays that you've had a bunch of members work on, or are you hoping to do something like that in the future to make something really big?
Yeah, well, whenever we do a train show, we usually collaborate on something very large, so one person's goes into another person's. At the show last year, we started off with a group collaboration, and we tried to do a pirate-themed collaboration. And unfortunately, we had tables that weren't quite together, so they ended up just being blue tables with pirate stuff kind of mattered in. But this past year, we worked on a collaborative zoo, and so we set out a module that people could, work within, and then, someone took the monkey, and someone took the warg, and someone took the bear, and so that actually came together quite nicely. And so we're kind of hoping to do that again. We have a couple ideas floating around for the next year's one, but we're not sure yet. But it was a lot of fun to do because you see the different building styles within one large sort of thing, right? So
and for a public visitor looking at it, it's like, oh wow, this is amazing, as opposed to like, oh, that's a nice like coffee shop sitting by itself on the corner of a table.
Yeah, and like they see it, they're like, one person did all this. Well, no, we all did it together. We're friends, and that's what friends do.
And everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome. Cheers to that.
Mostly just do it to encourage friendship then, in the end.
Oh yeah, for sure. And because it's fun and it's neat, and I want to see what they're going to do with a monkey enclosure, and they want to see what I'm going to do with a penguin enclosure. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Now, another set of builds I noticed going through your Flickr feed is actually, you did more than one build from it. This is your Shawshank Redemption builds. Now, how long ago was this? I didn't see a date on it, but how long ago did you do these?
Oh, jeez. Less than a year ago. I
Okay.
can't remember myself, but it was a while ago, yeah.
But yeah, these are very neat builds, definitely instantly recognizable, a few scenes from the movies you did. You just a big fan of the movie and decided to make them?
Yeah, thinking about it, I think it's my all-time favorite movie. I'm pretty sure I wore out the VHS when I had it. And the scenes have always kind of stuck with me, but I've never thought to do anything with them. And so it was just one of those opportunities where it's like, I'm going to try these. I'm going to actually give them a go. And I kind of wish I was able to do more, but 3 seemed to be not the maximum I could do, but all I kind of wanted to do for that particular one.
Mm-hmm. One of them I noticed was really cool was you had, Tommy Armstrong engrave a couple of bricks for you for the ones. What was the scene that you had that for?
That was the Brooks was here, so was Red, and I was kind of worried because I sent it to him with the hope that he'd be able to put something together, and I sent him the actual still from the movie so he could see the font and how it actually was, and it's like spot on, which is fantastic. And so when it came back and I saw it, and I was just like so excited to do it, and putting it into the mod, it adds so much. If I just put a brick in there and like Sharpied on it or whatever, or cut into it myself, my gosh, it just wouldn't be the same. So it helped immensely in putting that one together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really cool build, and Tommy does the great stuff with the engraving as well with that. Now this is, I think, is this the biggest build you did from the mocks you did from Shawshank Redemption, this one here? Yeah,
that was the longest one.
Okay, so what were some of the challenges with this? You kind of took a scene, all the way from the prison out to the lawn there, all the way down that way, so kind of a larger scene, getting a few different areas from the movie in there.
Yeah. The first thing was like going from left to right on the top. The flooring, the graded sort of front was too long. Using those fence pieces was too long, so it actually had to cut into the next one. So I had to leave a hole for it. So that was the first part. And the second sort of section of it with the hole in the tunnel, I built that one about 3 or 4 times, just because it sits back a little bit, but I wanted to be able to see it and have lighting and that. So it took a little bit of work. And unfortunately, although I had thought about it, he crawls through the 5 football fields worth of sewage pipe. And at one point in time, I thought, well, this is going to be really, really long. Like, what we see there, that's probably about 25 yards of football. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a much, much longer knock if I actually got it to what they say. And I thought about it for a while, but I would need like 7 tables to actually show that. So this is technically a smaller version of it, but yeah, it seemed to work out okay. I kind of wish that I'll say water, but it's not water in the pipe, if you know what I mean. I kind of wish that had been more sort of fluid, but you can only get so much with tiles and such.
Yeah, and it still turned out really cool. It's definitely recognizable from the movie, and some really cool builds here. So is this any more plans in the future maybe to do some more builds from the movie or more movie builds overall?
Not from this movie probably, but I have a feeling down the road I'll probably pick and choose from a couple of different films that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Now another build here that you had pointed out is kind of one of your favorite builds that you liked from some of the more recent stuff you've done. Was this monochromatic build that you did. Now, this was for a competition, I believe, right, where you had to do it all in one color?
Yeah, within our LUG we hold little competitions when we go to a show and have the public vote on. And so this one was a monochromatic challenge. It was build whatever, but only the one color, which can be difficult when they have the little variations in shade of yellow or whatever. But we had a little bit of gray area to kind of blend with that. But I just kind of like how I never thought that you could get so much out of just one color. Like, yes, the pieces, they come in different colors, but this one just turned out very nicely for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's an interesting type of build. Again, something you don't see that often. You've got kind of the spaceship, classic space kind of yellow, and then kind of landing on a far-off planet with you even got the yellow trees, yellow landscape and everything. What was the hardest part in yellow to find for this? Was there something that you didn't think you'd be able to find in yellow for the build?
I know I wish I was able to do more sort of texture on the ground. Because I brick built it and it's going sideways, it's very, very smooth. And so when it came to that sort of top part that had the studs up, trying to find things that would lend to a little bit more bumpy surface was kind of tough. So that's why it's unfortunately a little bit more plain than I hoped it to be, but again, working with one color, you're kind of limited in some cases.
But yellow is a good color to work with, right? Affordable, kind of, right? Cheap?
Yeah, and
widely available?
A color that I don't use often, which is half the reason I chose it, because
there you go.
Yeah, yellow's underneath my mountain or inside of the floor to build.
Yeah, it's always like the structural elements, right? Yeah, just put the yellow there.
Yeah, why not? Make it the star.
Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, those very awesome builds there, and I'll make sure to include links to all the builds we talked about there as well in the description, so people can check those out, and then make sure they check out all the rest of the stuff on Flickr as well. Now, do you have any entertainment you usually have going while you build? Any type of music, movies, TV shows, anything like that you find gets you in the zone for building?
If I have my laptop, I'll usually put on a movie or something like that. I've got the DVD selection to go from, so I'll throw on something. And it's usually something that I've watched 45 times before, because I'm not watching it, I'm just listening to it, so what's the use? But I've turned on to a program that we have on the radio at around 10 to midnight. And so that's what I usually tune into. And it's very sort of ambient music, which is really helpful because it's not something I have to pay attention to. It just kind of filters in and passes the time. But usually I plan to stop around 11, but all of a sudden it's 11:45. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, and I noticed that you posted a photo on Flickr a little while back. I think it was while you were doing your 30 days of sorting to help organize everything there, that you were sorting with your wife there. So does anyone else in your family build? Does your wife build, or your kids? Do you do much building with your kids?
I'm slowly trying to get my wife into it. She said she never wants to own it ever. Because I said, do you want me to buy you one? Because then you can go. She's like, no, because I don't want to own it. So I think I'll buy it for her, but really for me. So I'm slowly twisting her arm on that one. She loved doing the sorting because she would just tear through it. if like when I would take it apart, it'd be like, hey, these pieces go there, those pieces go there. She would just and then go from that. She's like a piranha. It was crazy. My daughter does like to build, and she'll sit at the table with me, or I made her own little sort of shelf table to sit at. That's more her height. And we've gotten her a lot of the Friends stuff because she just loves it. And so she'll build a little thing, and I love it because she'll borrow my pieces and she'll use this and that, and then she'll be like, here, Dad, that's for you. But if you want to give me back the things that are actually mine on it, you can. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So she enjoys it, and we'll get her going with bigger stuff as time goes on. My son isn't quite old enough yet. He's only 15 months. And currently with the Duplo, he likes either throwing it or putting it back.
Throwing it is the best application there.
Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah, and that's okay, you know. He'll get the feel.
It'll be Module X tomorrow. He'll be putting Module X pieces together before you know it.
He may eat those.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah, that might be a problem there.
Yeah.
But sounds like you've got some hopeful hope on the horizon there with some budding Lego builders in the house then.
Yeah, it's okay. We're doing all right.
So if you want to, real quick, can you show us a little bit of, you mentioned the way you've got your Lego room set up there a little bit. Can you show us real quick how you set up there in your build area a little bit? I'm sure people would be interested to see what it's like when you're putting these builds together.
Sure thing. So very carefully, I've gone with what we got? Let's see what I can do. The large Sterilite, sort of big things for all the big stuff. And I added in more of a storage thing near the bottom. Hopefully that got it. Because I found that a lot of stuff was going on shelves and just cluttering up shelves, which wasn't so good. Then we've got, for the smaller things, the more tool casey. I should be using them for nuts and bolts, but I'm not. Sort of shelves. And then sort of the mid-size, more white ones when you have, a little bit too much, but not enough for a big one, and this sort of thing. And then some of the more metal shelves for base plates and other little cabinety type stuff and storing of other things. That's kind of the bulk of it, really. This, I think, is about my 6th iteration of sorting, going all the way from big giant Tupperware bucket to this. And it's working well so far. I don't know if it's the final one. I don't know if you can ever have a final one. But it's working for what it's doing.
Mm. Your Lego room is kind of like the ultimate work in progress. You're always upgrading and making it better. You can never have too much, so you got to make more room in there and just keep making it cooler every time.
Yeah, and finding all sorts of different ways, like using, I use the pick a brick cups every now and then. I got a bunch of the jewel sort of things from like craft places because they come in handy from time to time, and you all of a sudden find something you're like, oh, I can totally make use of that. So then you change things up.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this entire room just your Lego room?
I wish I could say that. It's part of the basement, so about half of it is all of this, and half of it is the kids' stuff. And so we have the movies and the pillows and the stuffed animals and the old Nintendo and things like that. So I share and share well. I have to.
You gotta.
You have to.
You haven't quite reached the ultimate stage where you get the whole room to yourself. Yeah, that's maybe sometime in the future.
It is. Although when we were first looking at houses, there was a property that had a nice big house and then a nice big Quonset. And I have no vehicles that would go on the Quonset, and I was like, sweet, the whole Quonset just for Lego. And we didn't buy that one. Someday.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the hardest things about sorting Lego is just accounting for the fact that you're probably going to be getting more at some point. And I know I have a lot of trouble with that because it's like you buy all these drawers and they all match and they're beautiful, and then you go out and get 30 gallons of used Lego from somebody, and you have to sort it all into your, and suddenly the drawer's discontinued, and you have to get. It's just a never-ending struggle.
It is. It's it's a tough thing to deal with, but you struggle on because it's worth it.
It totally is.
Mm-hmm. In the end, it's well-spent time because it produces good builds when you can find your pieces easily.
Yeah, that's nice.
Now, do you have any big projects in the future planned? Anything large coming up here that you hoping to get done soon?
Within the next month and a bit, I'm taking on the whole September challenge, as many people are.
Okay.
I'm kind of slow off the hop for that one because school's just started, so I'm kind of getting in the groove for that. So it may be a little while. I may have put my foot in my mouth of what I want to build, and I've started it and realized it probably won't happen. I may keep trying. We'll have to see. But while I'm doing that, I have to plan and build for our next club show, which is in mid-October. So I have about a 11-foot by 4-foot section of layout to build for that one while doing September. So it's going to be a busy couple weeks, and hopefully I can get it all done.
Good luck with that. I know that's quite the undertaking there when you have to get the ship built in 1 month like that. But it's always really cool to see all the builders who take that on and try to get it done in the 1 month time, because a lot of awesome builds come out of that competition for sure. Yeah,
it's outstanding the amount of talent and variety that comes out of builds like those.
The best builds are done under pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any conventions, we talked a little bit about some of the shows you will be doing with your lug. Any major or bigger shows or conventions you'll be able to make it to this year, you think?
Current plan is to make it to Brick World in June. Convincing the wife about that one, but it should happen. Because we're kind of centralized and we're away from, like, there's no easy access to a quick jump this way or that way to a convention. So currently my goal is one a year, which is, I think, fairly, that's fairly fair. So Brick World seems to be the next one on the list.
Okay, awesome, very cool convention there. How far are you from Chicago?
I wager were I to start driving, probably gets twice. I've never actually mapped it out, and we haven't figured out the actual details of it. But it's far enough away to make it far enough away.
A little bit of the Earth's circumference will be traversed, right?
Quite a bit, yeah. But it'll be worth it. It's I love going to them. I haven't been to a ton, but every time I go, I enjoy myself, and you meet new people, and you meet the people that you only meet on here, and it's fantastic.
But of course, and they're all different, right? It's like everyone has its own little vibe,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. So do you have any, from the conventions and shows you made it to, any favorite stories or cool lit builders and people that you've been able to hang out with at the conventions and shows you've been to?
Last fall, I guess, I was able to go to BrickCon and meet a lot of people there and hang out with a lot of people there. I was fortunate enough to be in space collaboration there, Hub 14, and meet some of the people and kind of hang out with them, which was a lot of fun. And this past July, I was able to go to BrickFest in Toronto and hang out with the wonderful people of Toralug, who, if I could move to Toronto and be part of them, it'd be fantastic. And they're a great group of people that I kind of work with and hang out with. And I found that when you spend late nights kit bashing Benny's spaceship into 14 different types of Benny's Space Racer, people get very interesting. Some people get a little bit irritable, and some people get a little bit kind of goofy. But everyone made it out alive, and that's the important part.
As long as you don't lose anybody in the process, it's okay.
No, I think everyone made it, so we're okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, some really great builders there. So really cool stuff that comes out of Toronto and the Canada builders up there. Very cool.
And they're very friendly. We were looking, because they have their collectible minifigure habitats times every single one. Yes. And we were looking to do a Batman 75th anniversary sort of thing, and they were very nice that I asked if we could sort of use their similar sort of setup and modules for it. And instantly they were like, yeah, no problem. Which I find really, really nice, that there was nobody who ever approached saying, like, you built something really interesting, do you mind if we kind of borrow it? I've never been turned down. There's never been a no, that's mine, sorry. So it was really, really nice that they were, so giving about what they made and how they made it and their approach to it. Just saying, yeah, do your own thing with it. Cool.
Mm-hmm. They're willing to share and help out other builders that way. So yeah, that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have an all-time favorite set? One that over your years as a Lego builder you've thought was a really cool set that Lego has put out?
I do, and it's rather unimpressive when it comes down to it. But it is the Scorpion Tracker from the original Adventure set, the good old Johnny Thunder. It's just, it's a little car and a little scorpion and just Johnny. But for some reason, I dig it so much because the car is so well made. It looks like a little sort of deserty type car, and you got Johnny Thunder, the original Lego, Indiana Jones.
And it's like the whole car like hinges on that little front piece with the headlights and the body thing, with the seats with like the actual.
The little flatlines. It's brilliant. Yes. I don't know why. It's just fantastic. So, like, I've owned a lot of sets since then and before then, but that one, it's up there, and so I gravitate towards it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. So it's like it's not the cafe corner, but it's small and it's somewhat perfect.
Yeah, it's small. It's a humble little set that just for some reason, right here.
And it's a good argument for specialized pieces not being completely ridiculous. Like to have something so specialized like that centerpiece and the little front with the headlights. I should probably learn the real names of these pieces. But they're used well. It flows with the whole set. Makes sense.
It gives it a lot of good character. The whole sort of like seating area. I can't say I've seen it since that series really. But it adds so much to it. It makes it nice and complete, and it's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And I think it must have been a fairly popular set because it seems like over the years through Craigslist and eBay lots, half of them I buy has that set in it, or at least pieces to that set. Some of the car parts in there and stuff. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I've got like 5 copies of that car. It seems like so. But yeah, it is a cool little car. So I can understand why you'd like it there. So it is smaller than most people's favorites, but still really nice.
That's true. Yeah, but you know what? I was able to carry it around. It didn't take up too much room. I think I still have 3 of them built. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you were on a desert island then with only one set, which would you choose? Would it be that one, or would you go for something bigger because you could only have one set?
I definitely go for something bigger. I think what I would use would probably be the biggest set I could find. It would be the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. And I have two reasons for that one. Because the first reason is that it has enough to it that I could, put a lot of things together. Has enough variety of the pieces that I probably wouldn't run out of things for a while. And my second reason is that if I got so desperate, if I was able to put it somehow, some way, on eBay, then whoever bought it would have to come and pick it up, and therefore pick me up, and therefore I'd be saved.
So in a roundabout way there, once you get it on eBay, eventually you will survive when someone picks you up because they want
no more deserted island. Yeah.
I bet you if you put it for free on eBay, someone would be willing to come out and pick you up for a free UCS Millennium Falcon.
I think that'd definitely be worth the free, yeah.
So that'd be a good way to save yourself. The problem would be finding the internet to get it on eBay.
That would be the toughest part. So at least I'd have something to build in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Even used, I think you could still get somebody to come out and pick you up for it.
Probably, I would hope so.
With the popularity of that set, but very cool there. So then lastly, do you have any dream Lego set that you've always wanted Lego to make? I kind of wish I did. There's not really anything that I haven't seen them do that I'm like, oh, if only they would, oh, if only they would. When I read comics and have been reading comics for like a couple of decades, and as they've been coming out with the little figures, there's not even a figure that I'm like, oh, I wish they'd come out with this finally or whatever. Well, one was kind of the Green Lantern, or an affordable Green Lantern, and hey, it's happening. But beyond that, just something that has interesting parts. Anything that has sort of that interesting thing. I'm kind of unfortunate buying them more for the parts because I see something really useful, or I see something that I could put into X, Y, or Z. So if it was just a chock full of really interesting things, excellent. Let's go for that. Whatever gives you the pieces to build better and cooler things, that's the kit you're looking for.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is most of them right now, so keep doing what you're doing.
Oh yeah, they've come out with a lot of great sets recently, so definitely an array of pieces out there for builders who are looking for any sorts of builds for any theme. So very nice stuff there. Now, it was great having you on the show, Adam. I appreciate you talking with us. Great learning some more about your building and stuff. What's the best places for people to keep up with you? Your Flickr page?
Yeah, Flickr is usually where I have most of the stuff. I've got a mock pages, but it's kind of touch and go. So Flickr is usually the best spot to go.
Okay. Very cool. So I'll make sure to include a link to your Flickr page and all the builds we talked about as well on the show, so people can check all those out and take a closer look at them if they want. And definitely, if you're in the area of the Saskatchewan lug, I'd encourage you to check out the shows and things that they're doing, and maybe join the lug as well if you're a builder in that area who isn't a part of it yet. I'm sure they'd be happy to have you. So.
Oh yeah, we're always good.
Very nice. Yeah, so it was great having you on the show, Adam, and I'll include all those links that I mentioned, and I also encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Beyond the Brick and keep up to date with all of our latest builds and builders that we interview and videos that we're releasing. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.